Controversy heads the list tonight in New York. Jerome Corsi, author of the new book, The Abomination, Leftist Politics and the Cult of Personality. The book debuts #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. There you see its cover. He's also author of the 2004 bestseller, Unfit for Command, Swift Boat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry. In Washington is Paul Waldman, Senior Fellow, Media Matters for America. Media Matters describes itself as a progressive research and information center dedicated to comprehensively monitoring, analyzing, and correcting conservative misinformation in the United States media. Mr. Corsi, did you tell the New York Times the purpose of the book is to defeat Obama?
Well, Larry, I make that very clear in the book. The book is designed to say that I oppose the candidacy of Barack Obama, and I explain why. I've got 360 pages and nearly 700 footnotes explaining my argumentation about Obama, complete examination of his life, his positions, his background. I'm an investigative reporter with WorldNet Daily. I've had academic credentials. I've studied and worked in universities.
Did you, as a good investigative reporter, did you approach this objectively or not?
I did, but Larry, WorldNet Daily, one thing we do clearly is we also have a policy that we write editorials and state our political views as well. So I'm out front, just as I was with co-authoring Unfit for Command with John O'Neill. Here I'm saying clearly I oppose Barack Obama, and the book is designed to lay this information out and let the American public decide.
Paul, you denounced the book as unfit for publication, meaning?
Well, let's put this in some historical context, Larry. 4 years ago, Mr. Corsi co-wrote a book called Unfit for Command that was part of the Swift Boat Veterans for Truth campaign against John Kerry. Every single objective observer that looked at that came to the conclusion that it was just riddled with falsehoods and distortions and unbelievable claims. Now, 4 years later, he has come out with another book that is also riddled with distortions and falsehoods. So the question is, why on earth would anyone listen to what he has to say about Barack Obama?
All right. Go ahead.
To respond to that, well,
sure.
This is a common tactic of Media Matters and others. They broad brush, say it's discredited, it's full of falsehoods. When you get down to what they can actually prove, it's picking little objections. I mean, Unfit for Command, John O'Neill and I have not had to withdraw or rescind one single sentence of that book. We continue to stand by it. And I do remind people that John Kerry lost the 2004 election.
Well, you know, you can call...
hold it, Paul. The Abomination depicts Barack Obama as a radical liberal who has tried to hide what Jerome Corsi describes as, quote, extensive connections to Islam. There is a segment of the population that believes Obama is a Muslim. I asked the senator about this perception in mid-July. Here's what he said. A Newsweek poll shows that 12% of America believes that you're a Muslim, and 26% believe you were raised in a Muslim home. A lot of misinformation. How do you fight that?
Well, you know, by getting on Larry King and telling everybody I'm a Christian and I wasn't raised in a Muslim home, and pledge allegiance to the flag, and you know, all the things that have been reported in these emails are completely untrue and have been debunked again and again and again.
Jerome, if a man says he is a Christian, well, I doubt that.
Well, I don't. I say in the book, I can't read Barack Obama's soul. I can't look into his mind. If he says he's a Christian, he's a Christian.
So
what I say is, well, but what I document, Barack Obama just there said he was not raised as a Muslim. I very clearly document in Indonesia when he was 6 to 10 years old, living with his mother and his Islamic stepfather. He did attend a public school where he received Muslim education. And it was the type of Islamic education that was for a person registered as a Muslim in that school, which Barack Obama had also been when he attended Catholic school.
But, Jerome, you know that Jewish kids go to Catholic schools. Doesn't make them Catholic.
Well, he was registered as a Muslim. The documentation, I thoroughly researched it from the Indonesian newspapers and the Indonesian television. He attended mosque with his stepfather. The friends who were in school with him attest that he was then considered a Muslim, and that's the testimony of the people in Indonesia who grew up in those 6 years with him.
He says he's Christian. Paul, why do you think this closet Muslim thing hangs around?
Well, Larry, partly because what Mr. Corsi is doing is of a piece with this kind of innuendo that's floating around in emails and on right-wing websites, all meant to convince people that Barack Obama isn't really one of you. But I do want to respond to a couple things he said before. He said that the people who criticize him for getting the facts wrong are nitpicking. Well, the truth is not nitpicking. Either it's true or it's false, and much of what Mr. Corsi has written is just plain false. There's something else that's important, too. He talked about how many footnotes he has and how many sources he has. Well, if you actually look at them, there are dozens and dozens of citations to right-wing websites and blogs. One of the people that he cites as a quote-unquote source is a man named Andy Martin, who is an anti-Semitic right-wing blogger who once called a judge a dirty Jew and filed so many frivolous lawsuits that he's now no longer allowed to file lawsuits. So my question to Mr. Corsi is, since you cite Andy Martin multiple times as a source, are there any other anti-Semitic right-wing bloggers that you also use as sources, or was he the only one?
This is what Media Matters does. They frame questions.
This is what we do. We look at what you wrote.
Sir, if you'd like me to answer your question, I will.
Go ahead.
If you'd like to talk, I can just sit here. The book has close to 700 footnotes in it. The footnotes are of primary sources. There must be 100 books cited in that. I did interviews. The interviews are cited. There's newspapers.
Well, respond to the question about Mr. Martin.
Well, I can remember one quip I quote from him, and it's just a quip, where he basically is saying if Obama will lie about his background and his family, he'll lie about anything. And this was in reference to the way Obama presents his father in the autobiography, which I write about extensively.
I got to get a break. Next, more on the